Hello, everyone. It is Thomas Miner back again, and I wanted to do a quick video walking you through some buyer focused stuff, more so talking about what you should potentially look at before going to see a home, some key stats to look at, some key information that you might want to know. And this might be more resale focused, but it also might involve some new construction as well too. But there's a lot of different stuff I think that you should look at before you even go to look, whether you just want to have it in your mind or if it might possibly end up being a deal breaker and then make it so you don't even have to go waste your hour or so to go look at a house. I've had a lot of stuff come up while we're looking at the house that we probably could have figured out before we were even in the place, that we would have made it known that we should have disqualified it right away. So price per square foot is something that shouldn't be the only thing that you should look at, but you should know the price per square foot of basically every house you walk through, because that can kind of help you better compare them to each other than just looking at price in general, because you might be looking at a house that is a good 450 square feet bigger, and that's the only reason it's priced more price per square foot. They're actually exactly the same. When you compare homes by price per square foot, you should be getting more of an idea of what their opinion of the condition of the home is, especially if you're comparing two homes that are in the exact same market or maybe even the exact same neighborhood. Because the only other reason other than condition that price per square foot would probably be off is it's probably location, or that home might have some other feature. Like, for example, it might have one more stall garage, it might have one more bathroom, it might have one more bedroom, stuff like that. But in general, price per square foot is still a good metric to use. It just shouldn't be your only metric. You should look at the seller's disclosure before even showing up at the house. There might be something in there that they disclose that you just don't want to mess with, that might just take that home out of the consideration. And you should also look through the seller's disclosure before walking through the house, because it could potentially answer some questions that you might have. So, for example, it might have had some work done in the basement on the foundation or waterproofing wise that would be explained more in detail in the seller's disclosure. And if you haven't looked at it before you show up to the house, it's just kind of a question mark that you would need answered. And that question would already be answered if you had looked through the seller's disclosure. Or you might be looking at a house, for example, that was built 1945, 1946. One of the first questions I would come to mind in, if you're looking at a house in the Des Moines area, is it Orangeburg sewer or has the sewer line been replaced? That would be in the seller's disclosure if the seller knew about it. So those are some things that'd be answered by the seller's disclosure. You should know how many days it's been on market. If you're actively searching, more than likely the home you're looking at has probably only been on market for 0 to 3 days or so, because the second it showed up on market, you were interested in looking at it. But if your search has just started and it's your first day going out to look at homes, you might be looking at 3 or 4 in a row. Some of them might have been on market for a month or so, and some of them might have just been listed today. So that kind of days on market can give you a really good idea of what kind of position the seller is in. You won't know all of the seller's negotiation power, but if it's been on market for twice or 3 times the average days on market for homes in the area, you know that there's something that's holding this home up from selling quickly. It could just be it's a very specific type of home that only a certain amount of buyers would be interested in. It could have a lot of cosmetic defects. It could have some sort of legitimate mechanical concern with it. Could be overpriced. There's a lot of things, but you only really need to answer those sort of questions if it's a home that's been on market longer than normal. And then if it's been on market for a short amount of time, you know that if you really, really like the home, you need to be ready to offer so you could beat other buyers to the punch. So that's why looking at days on market is important, and it is important to know that either as you're walking through the home or before you go look at the home, to put yourself in the right mental state to ask the right sort of questions. This comes up every now and then in the Des Moines area. There are some common areas that still could potentially have flood zone issues. Even if it's in a flood zone but has never had issues with water, it's still important to know because it does change your home insurance. There is a whole nother section of home insurance that you have to get to make sure your home is covered against flood damage, and that'll up your monthly payment, and it'll up kind of the concern of one more thing that could potentially go wrong with the house. Remember that water is one of the main enemies of a house, so flood zone, it is important to know. This is more so if you're getting to the point of writing an offer, but it is nice to know before you're looking at the house to what sales are comparable to this. This is something that I give people kind of a rough idea before we're going to look at the house, and I give them an even better idea once we're going to offer. But I like to give people a decent idea of, hey, I looked at comparable sales, and this I would expect the sales price of this one to be somewhere right around here and here. That stuff can always change as you're walking through the home. Condition can sometimes surprise you in both ways, right? Either positively or negatively, or there could be something that you just didn't quite see online that really, really changes the value of it and everything like that. But it is always nice to have a pretty good idea of like, okay, it's listed at this, but more than likely the home market value is probably falling somewhere in between here and here. So you have an idea of, okay, is the list price reasonable? If it's not reasonable, if it's too high, why are they possibly thinking it's this high? If it's way too reasonable, what do we do? Especially if it looks like there's going to be a multiple buyer situation. How confident are we in our comps? Let's look at the comps and be confident in that. Reserved items, you want to know what the seller is planning on taking with them. The way it works in the state of Iowa, or the way it works pretty much any real estate sale, is if it's not physically attached to the house, it has to be clarified what the seller is planning on doing with it. So the biggest concern normally is appliances. Are they taking or leaving the appliances? Can you plan on having those when you purchase the house, or do you have to plan on buying a whole new washer and dryer, buying a whole new dishwasher, buying a whole new fridge, everything like that? What are they doing with those? You have to know what they're taking. And sometimes you want to clarify that they are taking something that you don't want, like a playset in the backyard. If you don't have kids, you don't want that back there, and you don't want to have to be the one that takes care of it. So you do want to clarify, are you guys taking this? Pool tables come up a lot. Hot tubs come up a lot. Notable landmarks nearby. This is stuff that's just nice to know because you want to have a good idea. Livability wise, is it close to things that are important to you? Is it close to really popular restaurants? What's the closest church? What's the closest grocery store? How walkable is the neighborhood? Is it nearby parks? Is it nearby schools? What school district are you in? Is very, very important. Notable landmarks are very, very important. If you guys have any questions about this, or if you want to know more about my home showing process, because basically the way it ends up working out is I will send an email answering all these questions to people the second that they schedule showing. So they have an email with a full report that gives them all of this information before we even step foot on the home. You guys should know quite a bit of information about the house before you even show up. So I'm always here to answer questions real estate wise. And thank you guys. Have a great day.